has to make an experiment, and you're ideal for it because you are penniless and you do have the dependence. So my wife was game to try it, so this is what we did, committed ourselves. So that's now 52 years ago, and I have been able to get, I have over 200,000 geodesic domes around the world today. I've gotten out a great many books. I've been able to produce a lot of artifacts for better way of seeing the Earth and a better world map, things like that. And I've had to say that only the impossible happens. I've been up against miracle after miracle. Just when I need things at the critical moment, just the last critical moment, then I have what I need. It's been this is sort of appropriate kind of information to come on your kind of a program where we're really talking about some of the great mysteries of the universe. So to me, I have then found apparently doing what needs to be done. When I was not doing what needed to be done, when I was doing the wrong thing, I would come in against a stone wall and we would not be successful. When I was doing the right thing, so and continually having to use my intuition to say, which is the right thing? If I stop here, or maybe I should have been going over here. What is the high priority action today, the next hour, the next minute? So I've had to make a great many mistakes and learned when you're coming to the end of this particular tack of your ship and going to have to go on another tack. I think that would be the very essence of what you would be interested in talking with somebody like myself.
I hear you talk about faith as a prerequisite for free thinking. I cannot tell you how much I am impressed with just that idea, because we all consider ourselves free thinkers. We all like to think we're free thinkers, and we don't know why it doesn't work for us. Obviously, it has worked for you. But what you're saying, that you had to build yourself on faith, and I want to just reiterate that, because it just went by so quickly, but it was so profound, that how the universe does look after itself, each after its kind. And it was that faith that you had to still upon that rock, then you can do your free thinking and bring forth something constructive. The other thing that I want to point out for my audience in this segment, that I want to pull out of what you're saying, is the ability to alter your course without losing your faith. Because when many people have to alter the course of their structured thinking, because even free thought can get structured after a while. You can caught up in your own structure of your own free thought. But you seem to have the ability to even alter your course without losing your faith.
Well, what I had to continually realize when I was in trouble, and my trouble tended to say, tend to me, trouble, I said, who am I? I don't know anything. I've got to learn over and over again that you're nobody. You are something, that human beings are something very extraordinary in themselves, but I'm not anything. But I'm one committed. There's a function in the universe to be performed at this moment in history. So stop the idea that you're up to you to solve these problems. Commit yourself to faith that it will be. So it's continually yielding that your what seems to be big to you is not really big, and really to yield to the bigger need. And don't be preoccupied with the negative. Be preoccupied with the constructive.
The alternatives.
But you have to do that on absolute faith that just everything's going to come out all right. Forget the trouble. Go to work.
A lot of people say today, we have 1 minute. A lot of people say today that we're headed for the end. We're out of oil. We're out of everything. And as we said in the beginning of the show, there are these doom sellers. I would be so bold to make a statement, not to put that statement on you, but religion has become $1 billion business on televangelism in this country, selling doom. And yet you're a man, as a free thinker, sees a wide, wide world ahead of excitement, of energy, of new life, of new birth, of everything coming that's exciting. So your message must be more important now than ever.
One of the most important things in my commitment was that I never become the head of a cult. That I must always just remember, it's just a little me. I'm not a special Messiah.
Well, there you hear it. When a man, as you said, people will use the bridge if you don't tell them it's there. We're in conversation with Mr. Buckminster Fuller, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Psychic Phenomena of the World Beyond. I am Damian Simpson, and we are in conversation with Mr. Buckminster Fuller. On the onset of the show, I was telling Mr. Fuller that all night I felt like I was a kid in a candy store with a penny, and here was this whole case of candy, because you have used your mind and your ability for free thinking to look into so many things, not only the universe, but on the way in the car I was reading a paper that you were doing on mammals and prehistoric man and how the family unit developed. And I figured that when I was a kid in a candy store, and after I paid my penny and I got the candy, and I went outside and I tasted it, I always wished I had taken the other candy. You're the first person I talk to. It is not a disappointment. I spend my penny and you sure do deliver the candy. It's like eating a whole plate of fudge. I want just the audience to slow down for a minute to hear the philosophy, not only the philosophy, the psychology, the way of life that you're talking about. Because you're relying on the ability as a self-totally created unit. I'd like to speak to you a moment about the domes, because the domes seem to be a very important part of at least your publicity or what goes before you. What brought about the construction of the geodesic dome and its importance to you?
Well, I told you that I had committed myself to solving problems with artifacts and not by social reforms or religious rules. And so one of the commitments then was to employ the most advanced science that was only going into weaponry and to apply it to the home front to see if we couldn't do so much with so little in the environment of the life that you might be able to take care of everyone. And that did end up in the geodesic structures, which do vastly more in the way of environment control than any other form of structure in the universe. In fact, it's such an important form that you find the protein shell of all the viruses with the DNA, RNA control of life are inside geodesic spheres as a protein shell. So nature is using this for her most precious information control is using the geodesic. I didn't know that. I built a great many geodesic domes. They've been photographed, published a lot. And when I heard from a great scientist in England, Dr. Klug, who was at the Birkbeck College in London University, and he wrote me about having read and seen pictures of the geodesics, and he said he was investigating with the X-ray diffraction the protein shells of the viruses while these other people were going on with their discovering the DNA, RNA, and so forth. And he said that the mathematics of the X-ray diffraction photographs indicated they had some kind of nodes that were similar in their arrangement to a geodesic dome. So I was able to send him the numbers of the nodes would always be what they call frequency of modular subdivision of the total system to the second power times 10 plus the number 2. About 5 years later, the virologists had a world meeting in America down Long Island, and they published in the front page of the New York Times the fact that my formula had explained the protein shells of all the viruses. But the point was I had found it mathematically how to structure, do the most with the least, and so it came out pure logic that nature was also using the same thing, because I found it mathematically. Nature had the mathematics itself. Anyway, that's enough about that for the moment. That was the point. And incidentally, about publicity, I've never had any publicity agents or anybody. I don't have any agents of any kind. Nobody's allowed to promote around me. Yet, in our archives in Philadelphia, we have during this 52 years of project, there are over 34,000 articles written about my work by somebody else, which have just come naturally because what I was doing was attending to what needed to be done. I'd like to go back more right now to what we were talking about a little earlier, and the commitment to of a human being as an experimental undertaking to see whether if you did what nature wanted done, you would find yourself getting on instead of doing what the system said you ought to do. And that because that had not been proven, I now represent a 52-year demonstration that apparently it can be done. I'm not saying to anybody, you just peel off from the system. I'm saying that you have to see something needs to be done that nobody else is attending to, which is going to take a whole lifetime, and commit yourself to it then. That's all right. Because the minute anybody else starts to do what I am doing, I walk away from that. All I want to be sure is being attended to. Now, I also want to come back to that faith business, because what I said to myself when I began to do this thinking and realize that if I was really committing myself, and I would be supported by nature, and I was committing myself to trying to make human beings a success, I'd be in on the great design of the universe itself. You would unwittingly come into knowledge that They're very incredibly important. Of utter importance, actually, right